Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden has dispatched one of his most trusted and potentially influential officials to West Asia. We're talking about CIA Director Bill Burns, who has arrived in Qatar's capital, Doha, in the hopes of turning the truce between Israel and Hamas militants into something more. Well, Burns' trips to Qatar comes after the truce was extended by 2 days. The CIA director visited Qatar for meetings with Qatari officials as well as his Israeli and Egyptian counterparts in a bid to push for a broader hostage deal that would expand beyond women and children. Well, it aims to include negotiations for men and soldiers as well. Israeli soldiers we're talking about here. Well, according to an official briefed on the talks, both Egypt and Qatar, who have had prominent roles in the hostage talks, Qatar hosts Hamas's political leadership in Doha, and in recent days, Qatari officials have been speaking with Hamas representatives about how to potentially expand the hostage releases. The US officials have been deeply involved in pushing for a deal to release the hostages. Burns has been a central player in the White House's effort to negotiate a deal for Hamas to release the hostages. He has been in regular contact with Barnier, who was designated by the Israelis as the pinpoint person for the hostage negotiations. Moreover, Burns earlier traveled to Doha on 9th of November as he and Barnier, the head of the Mossad, which is Israel's spy service, held talks with Qatari officials who have been working on this very issue. The trip comes as Americans are still being held hostage, including 2 American women eligible for release under the current deal and several more who are men and therefore unlikely to be included in the list of hostages who are scheduled to be released. And for more on the hostage situation between Israel and Hamas militants, our correspondent Susan Tehrani sends us this report. Take a look.
CIA Director Bill Burns was in Doha, Qatar on Tuesday to push for a broader hostage deal to include not only women and children, but also IDF soldiers and men. Some of those IDF soldiers are women. Burns arrived in Doha not only to meet with Qatari officials, but also his Israeli counterpart and head of Egypt's intelligence as well. But Burns also hopes to expand the current temporary truce between Israel and Hamas. Now, his trip is being closely watched as Americans continue to be in Hamas captivity, including 2 women who would have been eligible for release under the current hostage deal and not an expansion of it. The Biden administration is now facing criticism because it has been unable to leverage the release of more American hostages, with the exception of 4-year-old Abigail Edan, who is an Israeli American and is now home.